So, first and foremost, I am so happy to be there because I am back to San Francisco and after almost 2 years. So, welcome back. This evening is a dream for me. I have the great pleasure tonight to introduce to you our two beloved artists. So Ricardo, the Apexer, he has plenty of different names, and Chad Hasegawa. The first artist invited to share our space with Apexer. This event celebrates Chad's presence in that space. So Ricardo and Chad are both local artists with international exposure. Ricardo will have a new mural in the Warrior in Marine City and a big installation in Kuwait, just to say that. And you can see the huge permanent mural of Chad at Market and McAllister, Kashusha the American. The Open Studio is all about understanding the process of creation. More importantly, these two artists go to great lengths to make their art more accessible. So enjoy the conversation and please don't forget plenty of questions. Let's begin! So it's an Instagram live, so it's 45 minutes.
We got 4 million people viewing.
Let's do it! Let's go! Chad, do you want to just give like a brief background on yourself and just like your work, just a brief one, and then I'll do the same.
Okay. I'm Chad Hasegawa. I'm born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. That's where I got my interest in art. I was able to participate in the graffiti scene in Honolulu, and that's where I learned almost all my tricks of how to do everything I do today. It was a pretty cool place to grow up. You know, I surfed. I also skate. Tried to go to school, and I eventually found a passion that I haven't stopped since I was 10 years old. So I moved here in San Francisco in 2000, and I quickly just dove right in, and I realized that this was a place I needed to be. I first started off at Pier 7, and to this day I still, actually the second person I ever met in the city, I'm still in touch with them every day. And then eventually I moved on from the graffiti and actually started doing art as well along with it. And since then I ended up here.
Something like that.
Something like that. a little more than that.
And then for myself, born and raised here in San Francisco, enjoyed the city and all the changes that it brings back and forward over the years. Before I was born, currently, and with that kind of thinking, I'm always interested in how can I participate in the current change and help change the future of the city, hopefully for the better and hopefully for everybody, for community purposes, which kind of is a slow introduction into what this show and this process is all about. But just a little bit more on me. I went to school for graphic design, architecture, fused that into my work. The whole time, my street practice, what some people will call graffiti, but for me it was writing, because we were writing our name on different surfaces. Legality wasn't something that was important to me. It was all about that child ambition, that youthful energy of how can I express myself? Where can I express myself? So, okay, you tell me I can't do it here? Let me go over here where it's a gray area, or here, let me start getting permission. it didn't matter to me as long as I can express self. And I think that's an integral part of my work, to honor ideas that I receive, to put it back out into the world. Because you never know how it's going to inspire, affect, help, either way, other people. Which goes back to me when I was a child. And there's quite a few kids here tonight, which is great. When I was a child in 3rd grade, I was always a pattern kind of mind. I could map out where I went and tell my parents, like, oh yeah, I know where that was at. Street names, forget about it, but I could tell you every detail along the way. So that mind I still look at in my work today that was there when I was a kid. And it was the first, street work was the first work that I was able to see before any museum or gallery settings. So it's very important for me to still practice these 2 worlds of public art and gallery work, and push the element in the street as well as push the element indoors, and to have that as a dual conversation. And to kind of segment into what we're doing here with multiple artists that have shown at 836M before. Me and Chad, we talk all the time, and this idea has been kind of simmering for a while for me, and I felt like the timing was perfect with 836M, with the artists that they've worked with before. We sat down as a team and fleshed it out, the idea out, that the work that's behind me, these 2 pieces of mine, my studio mate Julian, he's actually here, who helped me sew this first piece together. I never really liked spray paint on canvas. It was supposed to be on a hard surface. I'm really like technical about pigments and paint and surfaces and finishes, and I didn't enjoy those elements. So fast forward through a lot of thinking about that one day just in the studio, it was just like, hey, I'm going to cut these pieces up, can you sew this for me? And that idea, fast forward to now, we have where it's piecing, the name of this show. It's about different people coming together, different patterns, different pieces of fabric, but now as individuals. So Chad's work, and there's 4 artists other than myself, and everyone's work has a different visual component that looks like it's piecing. You see my work directly is cutting up shapes and sewing it together. Chad's work that's in the back there, that he has some that's in the process right now, and the big red and white one there, it's definitely a painting that has a whole lot of meaning behind it for Chad. But visually, if you don't know, it can look like a tapestry, it can look like a textile, thus leaning visually its hand towards piecing. You have Jet Martinez, who's a great example that's right here. This is a mural of his, and he will be another artist participating. And his work is directly taking from Mexican sewing because that's his heritage. So once again, there goes it's not visually, it's dealing with textiles and fabrics, but you might not know that initially while looking at it. So the show is just having this conversation, and in the studio on the phone a lot with me and this guy, but also in the studio where this idea was birthed from. It's a chaotic, beautiful creation space that ideas, there's no right or there's no wrong, there's arguments, there's talking over one another. It's really the birthing process of creation, and that's what I wanted to bring into the space. That's what 836M wants to celebrate, bring into the neighborhood, take advantage and use of the windows and of the space, and have people be able to come in and out and walk in and out. If you work here, if you're walking by. It's just that overall inclusiveness and community driven to try to engage new ideas and create something new.
I just want to add about this neighborhood. When I first moved to the city, this neighborhood wasn't like very well walked at night. It still is very kind of like dark and secretive. So I've always loved walking here at night, like all by myself, and you know, maybe a couple of other friends, and it's really neat to have done art at night in this neighborhood. And now that I get to actually go inside of a building and participate and do some art, you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of making art on a mailbox or a door, I was able to make art here, and it's really kind of, it's interesting, it's shocking to me that, you know, because I just love this neighborhood so much. I love looking at all the gilded addresses and whatnot. So, you know, when I first met Agnes and she told me 836M, and I was like, what is that? She's like, 836 Montgomery. I was like, I know exactly where that is. I would love to do something with you, you know. And the first thing I said to her, I was like, I want to meet you at the building, because I just wanted to know the location, like right off the bat. It was just so special, you know, because I mean, I love, like, I was like, oh my God, it's right next to Holding Lane, you know. I'm gonna go stop by and get a BLT or something. And I walked in, and it, you know, I saw the drywall, and it was just like kind of under construction, and I was just like, oh my God, this is in the heart of it, you know, like my friends could actually see through these windows one day, you know, 'cause we never really got to paint inside this space. We painted the murals in the kitchen, you know, which was really cool. Jet got the beautiful wall right here, and you know, you got the necklace, but that we're in here, and you know, like, we just smile at people that walk by, and you know, we fit in, like, all of a sudden, like, just like we belong here, and it's just nice to be welcomed here, you know, with 836M, you know.
Well, that's a great transition to our conversation the other day.
Right.
Actually.
It is.
So part of that idea of like community and moving in and out, Seb came in the other day and he had a question that turned into a whole conversation. And I encourage everybody who's here now to, if you're in the neighborhood and you see us in here, knock on the door, or if it's open to come in, and if you have a question, it doesn't matter what it is, or any subject. Or to schedule an appointment to come in and actually sit down and have a more in-depth one if that's something of your liking. But the idea, we continue to talk about it, and it's about like transitions and transitioning. The work, Chad's work is transitioning, my work is transitioning from being a public artist working on the streets to doing gallery work indoors. What are the parameters around that? What are the conversations? What are the pros and cons? And how do we individually relate to it? Or some of the points. And do you want to like jump off, since you were just talking about being outside and now being inside in the space?
Yeah.
And then I'll come in.
I guess for me, I definitely had to change up my style, I guess, in order to actually come inside of a space, be a part of a space. You know, I really couldn't do what I was doing in the nighttime over here, you know, and enter here, and you know, I remember, like, you were the first person actually that I saw with legal walls. And you know, it really kind of stunted me, because I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to do a legal wall like that, you know. And so it was funny, because like, I guess my art back then was strictly for my friends, for myself, you know. I didn't even like showing examples of it, because it's like something I want to keep for me, like 100% for me. I never ever would even go by my name, you know, back then. And you know, I would see, you know, Ricardo with Mars, or you know what I mean, with Seek or Dime, or what, I would just see these legal walls.
These are all names of international picnic people.
And I was like, yeah, I think I didn't want my art to go that direction, for that type of art. I wanted it to be like, you know, like every time I maybe did it legally a few times, and I really messed it up because it just wasn't part of me. Like something about 12 o'clock at night, you know, freezing cold, shoes wet, socks wet, like just walking with friends and talking. That would drive me to do a better job for some reason. And then when I would do it in the daytime, I had the sunlight on me, I had the opportunities. It's just like.
How old were you then, though?
My first one was probably like what, 26 or something. 26. Yeah. You know, it was like, and it was on Haight Street. You know, I still have in the back of Amoeba.
Right.
That was my first legal piece of art ever.
So what changed from then? What was like a pivotal point between then to now?
You know, because I felt that way, I was like, how can I do something where I don't have to hide about it or be so secretly talking about it? How can I be proud of it and be very loud about my name and what I do and to freely speak about it without being so coded underneath? And I basically was like, you know what? I know how to do things for cheap. You know, I know how to paint many things.
Resourceful.
I'm very resourceful. I've been resourceful. You know, a lot of my friends, they always would be like, oh, there he goes with his bucket paint, Phil. You know, and it was seriously like the coolest because it was cheap and I was able to stand out. You know.
But it's not about, it was cheap on your end.
Right.
But just to jump in there, though, a lot of that paint is very high quality pigment, varnishes, and finishes.
It was like what, you know, the nice lofts didn't want. So they would bring it back to the paint store and they would sell it for $1 a can. You know, sometimes $4 a bucket. You know, and then I made friends with them. They're like, oh, there's the guy that buys the cheap paint. Hey, do you want me to add some red pigment in there? I'll make it really nice. I'd be like, would you do that for me? And they would literally put pigment. So, and that's when I started becoming this color mixer. It wasn't just Rust-Oleum or Painter's Touch or American, you know, Osh. It was like, I had freedom now. I don't have to like freeze a can and boil one. I could just go straight to this guy and be like, oh, I'm looking for this color. You know, Jansport blue, you know, backpack blue. I wanted, you know what I mean? Like I had, and how do I make that color so it's not so transparent, it can be fast. I go over red.
So you took the freedom of walking around this neighborhood late at night and then started bringing it into your art practice.
Oh no, that was silver.
Talk about that.
Yeah, no, that one was silver. But it became, so basically I was like, you know, I'm gonna paint a mural. And that mural's not gonna cost me anything. You know, I don't need to buy an expensive black or anything. I'm just gonna go look around. I'm gonna walk around. I went to Berg Alley on 8th and Harrison. The most expensive thing I bought was a ladder. You know, because I was like, I want to paint that whole wall. And so I went and bought, I don't know, like a $50 ladder that extended 20 feet in the air. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this even worth it? What am I going to do with this ladder after? And I painted this bear, you know, dripping all the way down to the ground. I destroyed the entire sidewalk that was covered in other mess anyways. And I sealed it in there.
Mess?
Yeah, and then, and I wasn't trying to be an artist. Honestly, I was bored, I think, at that time. So I did that, and then all of a sudden I heard bus drivers honking at me. I would hear joggers like, yes, you know, like, and I was just like, man, people scream a lot in this neighborhood. And I didn't realize that they were actually talking to me until, like, one bus driver, I remember he stopped his bus, he got out of the bus, he's like, hey man, I just want to let you know, I've been watching your progression. I love what you're doing. This bear is amazing. And then like other photographers would come up to me. Jeremy Novi came up to me. Other artists that would write, they were like, "Whoa, that's you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that was me." Like, and I realized like, wow, the sun really brings a lot, to people's
Balance.
creativity. Yeah. And I was getting thanked for the first time ever. I wasn't just waiting for someone to post me on 12 ounce or Flickr or, like, it was like, wow, I was getting thanked in person, in action. This is a great feeling,
With that,
Yeah.
why would you, I know it's a general question here, why would you leave that environment of painting bears, I'm fast
Right.
forwarding here,
Right.
to the work that you're doing today, that some samples are here?
It's not birds.
Well, that's funny because it's not fast forward, it's rewinding actually. You know what I'm saying? So the bear is my way of getting accepted by the mass. I almost was doing that for everybody else than myself. It was more like, does this neighborhood need it? What will it do for people? Will it brighten people's day up? I think it was more of a feeling that I was going for, and it was more like I wanted to just like, I was trying to save the world with it. I don't know how that's possible, but like I just wanted to make people happy and feel safe for being in the worst alley ever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this bear is really cool. I don't mind walking down this alley, or like that was my intent in the beginning, and now like I got really good at that, and I absolutely love it because I like, now I know what expression I want on a bear's face. I want it stoic. I want it minimalized. I want it nothing, like no goofiness, not hungry, not angry. I want them looking you dead in the eye, just like almost like so powerful that it doesn't need any sort of movement in their face or expression.
But how do you get from the bear, in transitions conversation, how do you get from the bear?
Right, I think I fast forwarded it a little bit. So I'm going to rewind now again.
I got you, man, let's go. I got
So
you.
rewinding back to it, I was really good at my art in the beginning. It was something I did longer than anything, maybe even longer than mechanical pencil drawings or longer than Sharpie drawing. I've been spray painting so long, and I'm really good at it. But my style wasn't, like 100 colors. My style was all about simplicity, bold. I wanted you to go to a train yard, like say like Coliseum. Everyone in Oakland, I love painting Oakland because it was just, they would throw 50 colors, 15 to 50 colors in their pieces. And I would come in like with a bucket paint, like this new turquoise, a little bit of key lime and a little bit of, flat black on it. And I love that my minimal shapes would just drown.
Well, you were doing letters.
It was letters.
And then you're saying that you're taking that moment of minimalism with letters, your name.
Basically, I was a minimal graffiti artist.
There you go. And then now you're bringing it into this.
And so now I'm bringing it back. It's still kind of cryptic, but if you know my work, it's really kind of like funny because it's so natural. I'm not trying to be Ellsworth Kelly or Frank Stella or some minimal artist, turn of the century Russian avant-garde. It's like, no, that movement already happened. That went from that era. I think it influenced hip hop. I think train writing. I think it influenced everything. And now I'm looking at it from hindsight. I studied all generations of that. And now I'm bringing it to what it is now. So it's like I could do this any day, anywhere. Just give me a piece of paper, you know? And so it's really natural to me. So I did go to the bear, but then I went back to what I really, truly meant to do. I think like my heart is showing now. You know, it's like, I'm not hiding, like, is this going to be accepted as art? I'm not hiding that anymore. I'm like, no.
You're finding that path.
This is
Finding
fun
that
to
voice.
me. Yeah. It is. I'm telling people my voice. I'm showing people my voice.
Yeah, you're speaking.
Yeah, now you can hear me for what I really do. You know?
In that regard, like in my work, I didn't really care about anybody else. It was like, oh, my peers, oh, you see it? Oh, we connect, we recognize. Okay, let's keep it moving. And then even if there was groups of people in that, it was like, okay, like life for 3 years, 2 years, whatever the time period, we're together painting. And then, okay, now we're not. Then it was like, okay, well, you know, ever since I was a kid, I've always just been like, I'm going. And how can I keep going there? Who can I work with? Who can I sit down with and we talk ideas? And who can I collaborate with this so I can just keep moving forward and exploring this world? So for this work here, a million stories I could share about, you know, the street school, I call it, you know, like my undergraduate in painting in the public.
Doctors.
Undergraduate. And then later that happened. But,
We're doctors of art.
But that I kept coming to questions that I couldn't answer visually. Well, what am I trying to say? And it was this piece, the reason why I have them up is because this was like the first one of, oh, wait a minute, this is it. And something you were just saying about your voice.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you look at my resume, there was accolades to different institutions and this wave was going, but I didn't, in my heart, feel the wave. It was my artwork, but it was like, wait, this has a history and a language and a context outside, but not really indoors. And it feels like a curator or an institution is kind of pushing us down and in, but it's not what I wanted to say. And so kind of in my own timeline to move forward, this work pulls reference to family members who would sew. It pulls reference to different histories, American history of writing, what people know as graffiti, American history of quilt making, African American history of quilt making. All these things are all kind of mixed in there, which I love pulling that together. And over the years, my work was all about, like, in the background of writing, the culture, one element was how can you make it more complicated? And if you really understood the science behind a style, a look, how can I make it more complicated? But what that really did for the average viewer, it looked like abstraction. So as soon as I kind of stepped out of my world and looked at it, I said, oh, okay, that's abstract art. That's abstract. Oh, okay, what's my communication in my language here? And what's the communication history here? How can I bridge the two? How can I have my own voice in it? And then art history, and you throw in the modern era business into it. What can I say and how can I say it? And start to have a true voice that's separate to what I'm painting on the street. So this work and what I'm going to be producing here over the next 2 months, it's going to be a whole new body of work that's really saying, hey, I'm cutting up canvases that this huge canvas that's behind us, the canvas that's on the floor here from other samples. I'm going to cut that up, and this is now my fabric. If everybody here has different fabrics on, you know, all I'm seeing is patterns and color combinations You know, you have a mask that has like blue and white. His shirt is a different shade of blue and white. My brain immediately is seeing this as I'm looking out at everyone. And for this body of work, it's all about being able to chop my work up versus somebody else's and abstract myself further, and then to learn what's the new conversation that's going to come out of that. And when that new conversation comes out, I listen to it, and then that's going to inform my public work. Having everyone here, or when an opening happens, to see what he was saying about the bus driver and the joggers that happen naturally on the street, or in the studio practice, like what is this saying? How is this relating to people? What walks of life are relating to it? That all kind of informs me on if my finger is like on the right beat. And if it is on the right beat, then I just keep going. And it's still me just venturing forward in my own vision, in my own creation. Even though I take a breather and I look around and go, oh, okay, good, okay, cool, keep going. So it's for me, it's a really personal process that I include everyone in at the same time. Just to like sum it up a little bit.
Are you allowed questions now or?
You can ask questions now.
Question now?
Yeah, it's
I'll
good.
throw a question. I mean, Ricardo, Chad, I've seen your plenty of times out on the street. It's about, the question is about collaboration. I mean, obviously you can talk to each other as you're painting. But at a certain point, how do you determine the overlap of the work? Like, the one piece I've seen of you two collaborating is the bear with,
In the mission.
in the mission at the Raw Match.
That was for Converse.
Sorry?
That was for Converse.
That was for Converse, up in a Raw Match shop.
I think we were the first mural for Converse. And then Schultz and everyone came after, and I think we didn't know
So,
that.
I mean, the question is obviously it's a completely different kind of style. Where did you see the harmony in the line? It wasn't just a simple over. I knew that.
Different styles, but like the way I view it, you know, like your toes and your fingers, they do different things, but they are still functionally, you know, they work together for you.
Okay.
So artistically, that's how that might be a strange analogy, but that's artistically like how I like to work.
Generate the body.
Yeah, so I already knew his work, Chad's work, when we did that one. And it was kind of like, yo, I want to do a bear. Oh, okay, yeah, let's do a bear. Oh, if you go in black and white, then I'll go colorful, and I'll lay down the general shape of it, and then you come in and you do yours over the top. And he was like, oh, you remember, you were like, you sure you want me to go over it?
Well, I mean, I remember that. I remember that clearly, that collaboration. I thought it was cool because I didn't want to do like side by side. I didn't want to do intertwining. You know, I did a lot of that kind of stuff with my homie Kyola because we were all trying to go big on walls, but then we end up just intertwining our letters, and it would just be like, it would be so cool that we trusted each other that way. But I didn't want to collaborate with you like that. And so I remember like being like, nah, like, I don't, you know, it's not a times Chad and Apex. It's like, let's create the Apex bear. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's do this together. And I remember, I was like, you know, I'm just gonna, like, we talked about the process. We got that big ladder from Action Rentos. And I was just like, I spray paint the sketch. You spray paint on top. You're like, I know some liquid that can go over spray paint. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, and I just remember getting on that ladder. I sketched it in like 5 minutes. You painted yours in 5 hours, and I took 5 days to paint the bear.
It looked great.
It looked great.
It was about time.
But no, it was. I love that collaboration. I think we broke the charts on Instagram,
I don't know.
and Instagram feeds or
I
whatever.
remember the signature.
Oh yeah, that was a great one.
I remember I wasn't
forgot
on
about that,
Instagram
actually.
back then.
Forgot about that.
I messed up.
Forgot about that.
It was like 20,000 comments and stuff.
Alright.
It was crazy,
Wow.
you know.
How have y'all noticed like public art changing from like the last 10 years to now? And, like, Does that affect your reasons for staying in the Bay Area? Because a lot of artists end up going to LA or New York.
I think street art is or mural art or outdoor art. See, I don't like to be called a street artist. You know what I mean? I like to be called an artist. You know, like I make paintings. You know, like I'm not your typical, I guess, street artist that, you know, does, like what you get on the street is basically how I would make a painting. You know, so I never really, you know, so basically I'm making you paintings, you know, on your walls outside. You know, it's not street art, but I hear what you're saying. Like I feel like a lot of artists turn their art to become street art because of how famous and how much publicity and Instagram is automatically gonna like your work because it's street art, it's on the street. Wow, it's LA, it's San Francisco, you know, it's like, you know, it's changed a lot, you know, from us Gemios. Like, I mean, just watching them paint in 2003 in the Mission behind a dollar store. These guys were pretty much painting with mud. It was crazy. And now it's like professional, you know, spray paint. It's projected. It's Ronin. You know, and it's like all kinds of magical grids and good. Even the tape's gotten better. And I think it's like anything else. It's no longer brand new. It's no longer it's not inventing anything anymore. It's just more like, what can I do to add all this magic together to make something beautiful? You know what I'm saying? Like, I love it. I still look at murals and wow. But then I'll still look at like a Presida Eyes mural and be like, I want to do one of those one day. Like that's a mural. Like that's Diego Rivera. You know, it's not selfish or it's not street. It's not like ego driven. It's not like I'm faster than you. I'm more colorful than you. Look how I blend this. It's
Talking
like
about the subject matter.
subject matter.
Community.
Say what?
Like a community mural.
Community. That's my dream. Like what you do, Yarl. Like I find that special. Like when you did on 3rd Street for the community. That's worth more than 1,000 murals. You know what I mean? I think that was special. Yeah.
Someone on Insta Live asked, what do you think of NFT art in the street art context?
The what?
Well, NFT art in the street art context. What do you think about it?
NFT art and street art? Wow. Yeah, do that, man.
I think that NFT art and street art, if you're going to keep in the context of street art is like lawless. You can do whatever you want to do. There's different elements of it, even if it's, once again, even if it's not legally lawless, visually it can be. There's moments that happen all the time. So the idea of producing a body of work that is then is immediately exposed to the elements and people that could be destroyed, that element lends itself directly to NFTs. For people who understand all the language and lingo around NFTs, hey, it's a limited run print per se, and if it doesn't sell out, then we destroy, we burn the rest of them. Now this becomes really collectible. This lends itself directly to street art and the energy in it, if you keep it to that true essence. I think that it's the new fad, it's the new kid on the block. So we're going to see it play itself out, and a lot of people are curious about it. And I think the best way to really understand it is just to jump into it. And street artists are great at just jumping in and doing stuff. So we're seeing that a lot of that is happening in those two worlds overlapping.
Thank you.
I think NFTs are too new right now. Like I look at NFT like say you're an artist and you're gonna go work with a fine art printmaker. There's a process, there's a reason, it's a real collaboration that should happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what makes a fine art print. Like, it takes time. You know, it's not like I'm gonna sit on my iPad right now, I'm gonna draw something really quick and vectorize it and make it kind of look like my art, because then it looks like you did it on the iPad, now you're selling it. Like, I think you need to really work with Pixar or an animator or someone that is a master at computer graphic digital art. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that to me is like NFT. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just too new. I think it's a print. I think it's a modern day print. You know, it has. I mean, there's a financial business to it, but I think people need to take it a little more serious. It's too brand new. It's too rookie. It's like you're gonna do an iPad drawing, put a hip hop beat on it, and vibrate your NFT, your drawing on your iPad, just to make it seem rad.
Hey, there's always toys, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's like
you gotta start somewhere.
You gotta think of it like a fine art print. Like, I feel, for me personally, I feel like it's gotta be. Otherwise, just share that digital art. You know, like instead of trying to sell it. I get it. Like, maybe I personally, I just want to see it get better. You know, because I think like artists they're trying to jump on a bandwagon because it's like they don't want to miss the bus. But
well, like anything, certain tools win better.
Yeah.
Here.
But I don't think it's a social media thing. I think it is a collectible item. I feel like it is going to get better. I think for my theory in the future, it's going to get way different. You know, like
It has room. Everything has room.
it has a lot of room. So
Sorry. I want to go back at Chad in particular. I think I want to go back to the transition that you made.
Right.
And can you, so you sort of explained how you transitioned from an inspiration standpoint from the bear to what you're doing now. Can you tell us about how your audience, the people that like the bear, the community, the galleries, how they perceive your transition, and share some real things there.
yeah, for sure.
And where are you in that process?
For sure. Not just.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Be real.
Well, you know, in reality, I've wanted to do it for so long. I waited for an opportunity like the DeYoung to be able to just blast it in people's, you know, like I didn't have one bear in that show. You know, it was just like portraits and minimal abstraction. And it was bad timing, I think, you know, but it was good timing too, because no one was doing it really. I just knew I wanted to jump on it, but it was very hard. It's very hard. It was like I started off brand new. I should have changed my name almost as an artist. It was so different, and people were shocked. You know, like a lot of people thought I was being lazy. A lot of people thought, you know, because no one really. It was so brand new that like galleries were like, oh my God, like what are you doing? Like you're jumping off the freeway, Chad. Like, and I was like, I am, huh? You know, like, and it kind of drove me a little more, like, because I knew I wasn't failing. You know, because I just like watching it come out, it was just so cool. And so like I just had, it's like I almost had to like have people believe in it. It was so hard for me to do that. I don't see how they, you know, Malevich did it, or I don't even, like Philip Guston, he, like what a change that guy did. He went from, you know, abstract expressionism to cartoon drawings, you know, that they're both loved. But, so I knew it was possible. What's that?
But maybe not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I mean, it was so hard. I mean, it definitely was like something that I needed to climb, you know, and have it believable, you know. I mean, I was trying my hardest. I was like, what do I do? Like I'm in Ruka, this group show. I'm doing a minimal abstraction, and I'm with all these street artists, all these like really hip artists, and I'm like, the guy put me behind a pillar, you know, because he was like, man, it's so crazy. Like, it became a Chad Hasegawa show amongst 50 artists. Like, it was like, oh man, I love that painting. I wanted it to be out, you know, but. You know, I had a gallery like, oh man, what are you doing? You know, like, how am I gonna show your work? You know, how am I gonna like?
Did you have to change there?
I had to definitely change. You know, galleries ask for different help from other people. I had to somehow have them. I felt alone all of a sudden, but then it just started. Like, this guy Poesia, he was like, bro, you're the first, you know, like, that's cool, you know, like, and then there was other people that were just like you know, clowning on me, but then later on they started doing it too, you know, like they started picking up on it, and I think people are picking more up on it. You see a lot of minimal abstraction. You see a lot of graffiti writers go minimal, you know, in their style and technique. But I would say it wasn't until I painted it on the street. That was my answer. It saved me. I was like, oh man, what did I do? How did I do the bear? Like, let's go back to the beginning of the business, or the artist, you know. I was like, I started off on the street. I started off for free on the street. I did it for free all day long, for free. And that's when I did my minimal stuff for free, and it caught on, you know.
I think we have time for one small last question.
Okay. So I came to you
Yes.
with, you know, the bears were there, the minimal abstraction were there, and I like both.
Yeah.
Apparently you've been catering maybe to different crowds, and one, you know, the original one, did they all graduate, probably not to the new work, and vice versa. You know, do you have a preference? Do you like someone who likes the bears and you understand if they don't like the other stuff?
You know, like, I try not to cater to anybody, but like who I actually.
But you have to worry about galleries.
Oh yeah, definitely. See, I'm trying to get.
Small question.
My goal is to get it like. I want graffiti writers. I want the rebels of art that have no rules. I want them to like it. You know, I want galleries to love it, of course. You know, but like at one gallery, they told me, "We love your work. We want to show you." But we Google Chad Hasegawa and what pops up. It's really hard for my collectors to Google your name and be like, whoa, I love his minimal. Why is it all bears? You know what I mean? And I wanted it
100 years from now.
100 years from now. I mean, they're so loved.
No.
I'm so grateful that I created something so iconic and loved, you know? And I still, don't get me wrong, people. I love painting those bears still. I still paint them every year, like 5 to 10 of them, you know, but they only go into, like we were talking about super burners. They only go to certain people, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you knew me before, you're getting one. If I love your wall, you're getting one. If your neighborhood needs help, you're getting one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We actually have a collaboration location that we haven't done yet because we've been busy.
Which one?
The one I was telling you, Upper Market.
Which one? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
But all right. I think we're going to stop all the live feeds right now. I want to thank everybody who's been on Zoom and Instagram Lives. And for everyone who's still here, I think we can have a little bit more moments that we can get to questions from certain people who I've seen. So, Chad, you want to tell everybody online? Peace out. Thank you.
Everybody on Apex's feed, 8 for 6M. Thank you so much for listening, and it was a pleasure.